Hello, everyone, and welcome to Moementum Mondays. On these weekly series, every Monday, we invite one inspiring young man or woman to our show and talk to them about important topics, including investing, financial planning, and financial education. Many of our guests include fellow YouTubers and investors who I've followed on YouTube and enjoyed their contents. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of Moementum Monday. My name is Mo, and I'm super excited to have on our show Ryan from SOYS Investment Group. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Yeah, and thank you for having us, Mo. Really excited to connect with yourself and join the channel.
That's lovely. Ryan, we have connected offline through email, and I also landed on your YouTube channel. You guys are doing amazing work as well. I think you are working on a podcast, YouTube channel, various different communication channels that we are going to get to in a moment. But why don't you first start by introducing yourself and your SOYS Investment Group to us and tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Mo. And again, just a huge thank you for having us on the channel. We've been following it for a while, so obviously looking forward to connecting and taking you through what we offer as really a channel. As you mentioned there, we've got a podcast and a few other things, but essentially SOYS Investment Group is a peer-to-peer investment service. And what I mean by that is we cater to the retail investor. So we look at things from, we've got a Discord channel where we talk about stocks, what's been moving the markets. We give daily alerts in terms of things that are catching our eye. And it's really an educational platform. But outside of that, as you mentioned, we've got the entertainment side of things as well, where we've got the YouTube channel, we've got our podcast as well, and we've got our Instagram page. So there's a few little things we use to engage with our followers and our members. But really the big one is, as you mentioned, Mo, is the podcast, YouTube, and the Discord channel. So there are three key, platforms.
And what motivated you, Ryan, to start those different channels? What inspired you to get on it?
Yeah, so to be honest, Mo, it's been a personal passion of mine in terms of, personal finance and looking at ways you can sort of become financially independent. And I sort of followed the stock market for maybe 7 or 8 years now. And it's been something that I've been doing in the background since then. And as I said to you earlier on, we sort of opened up the SOYS Discord channel on January 3rd of this year with the intention to sort of bring members on board, like-minded stock traders and investors, and show them a little bit more. So really it sort of developed out of a personal passion. And from there, we've got a few people now working as head of digital marketing. We've got, we've got sort of people specializing in Forex trading as well. We're looking at retail investing and also looking at sort of, the housing market as well. So there's loads of different avenues that we'll be looking at over the next couple of months.
That's amazing. And I think what I've heard from you is that your Discord channel has grown dramatically, I think, since it started. Do you mind sharing with us roughly what's the member count on it? And do members come only from Europe, or is it throughout the world?
No, so as I said, we opened up on January 3rd. We're averaging around 50 to 60 members per week, which is fantastic. I mean, we haven't put a whole lot of promotion behind it because we do have a core base of members. So what we're trying to do is build up the content in the Discord channel so that we can add more value to members. But we're sitting roughly at around 305 members today, which is quite good for an Irish-based Discord channel. But to your point, we have got members from across the United States. We've got members from Asia, we've got members from Europe. So in terms of diversification, I'd say it's probably 20% in each of the continents around the world. So we're well blended.
That's amazing. And I think that diversity and having members from across the board also contributes to the quality and various perspectives that can be shared on that Discord channel. Tell us a little bit more, Ryan, about your podcast. How frequently do you release that podcast? And where is it shared? Is it posted to any of the app stores, or how can someone actually follow along and join and listen to your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely, Mo. The podcast is available on all of the sort of, the standard podcast apps. So you can get it on Spotify, you can get it on, iTunes, you can get it in Google Podcasts. There's a stream of different services you can get access to. Primarily, it was through Spotify. So the podcast is obviously SOYS Investment Group, but we started it around maybe 7 or 8 weeks ago, myself and two of my colleagues, Carl and Mike, who are also in the Discord channel. Carl's background is he's actually he's a qualified accountant. Mike is more of a tech guy. He works at one of the largest tech companies. So we've got a blend of sort of my experience from the stock market. We've got an accountant from the financial perspective, and then we've got Mike, the tech guy. So we sort of talk about what's been moving the market. Every month we usually talk about our top 5 stock picks for the given month. Or for example, I was saying to you earlier, Mo, we had a podcast just released yesterday around, are we in a stock market bubble? So we talk about topical things and topical stocks and stuff like that. And we have obviously questions in the Discord channel as well, which we answer every week.
And that's great that you and your colleagues, Carl and Mike, are actually working actively on growing the channel and various whether podcasts or Discord, and connecting with your audience through quality content. As I was going back to your YouTube channel as well and looking at some of the older videos that you had posted, I think the very first video that was posted on the channel talks about how to create an easy pre-market stock screener. So maybe we can share with us what filters and metrics do you recommend including in a stock screener for our audience here on Moementum channel?
Yeah, absolutely. The first YouTube video, our first exposure to YouTube, Mo. But yes, with the pre-market scanners, what I typically say is it is really dependent on 2 things. It's dependent on your risk appetite. So if you want to be speculative or if you want a long-term investment. So if you're looking at a day trade, I always say there's probably 2 key things to look at in your filters. One is volume versus 3-month volume, and it gives you an indication as to, is the volume increasing for the given day versus what it was 3 months ago. So if the volume's increasing, you can likely get maybe 5, 10, 15% in a given day if the volume's there. Volume's key for day trading or swing trading. The second thing, if you're trying to day trade in your pre-market scanner, is having the correct sector. So you need to know where the market sentiment is. So for example, a couple of months ago, we would have made maybe 10 to 15% at least a day per stock with the EVs. So we would have traded NEO, we would have traded Tesla, we would have traded XPeng, a lot of them. And what we would have done is we would have gone onto our pre-market scanner, filtered by electric vehicles, and then what we would have done is applied a volume filter to see where the volume sat, and then we would essentially trade the volumes. So that's sort of the day trading side of it. But then I suppose the other side of it, Mo, is if you're a long-term investor and you want to look at, okay, what is a fundamentally sound company, you might apply filters such as, you might look at the P ratio. So typically you might look at companies with a filter between 15 and 30 on the P ratios, little things, the profit margins, current ratios, the dividend growth over a certain amount of years, return on equity. I could go on and on, Mo, but there's different things depending on what your risk appetite is, if you're a day trader or a long-term investor.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Ryan. Now, I know in that video you were sharing the Yahoo Finance, which is a free tool for everybody to use as well. Are there other resources, websites, tools that you or your colleagues refer to and that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. There's 2 in particular, which are quite similar. They're free access. That's why I like to recommend them. The first one is FinScreener. So you can literally just, search whatever the ticker is. So if it's Alibaba, just type in BABA and it'll give you a full breakdown of the fundamentals and all the key ratios. And again, you can use it if you're a day trader or a long-term investor. And another one is Market Watch, which is a fantastic website, which gives you very much, financial snapshots of the company. So again, what the 52-week trading range is, what the volume is, P ratios, all that good stuff. So those are 2, FinScreener and Market Watch.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing those, Ryan. Outside of the stock market, do you invest in other, streams as well? Crypto, real estate, or you name it? And why? If yes, why? Or if not, why not?
Great question. I suppose currently the answer is no, Mo. I'm not. I'm trying to really build up the I suppose the stock market or the stock side of things of SOYS Investment Group. But as I said earlier, we are trying to look at diversifying our portfolio or our service offering to members. So we are looking at things like real estate. So what we're looking to do is, on the Discord channel, bring in experts, real estate experts, to maybe talk to our members around where are certain locations across the world that we could look to start putting money to use, or, if we want to rent or we want to buy, where we can sort of look at those things. And in particular, the whole idea of maybe flipping houses. So that's something that is in the pipeline for SOYS Investment Group. But likewise, on the question of cryptocurrency, we do follow cryptocurrency, I suppose, on a regular basis in SOYS Investment Group. We talk about it every week on the podcast. We've got members who are very keen on Bitcoin, but we're not personally invested. I'm not personally invested in Bitcoin. As I say that, though, I do have stocks related to it. So the likes of Marathon Patent Group, Riot, SOS, and actually about 30 minutes ago, I bought some shares in Coinbase, which is the big IPO today. So there's a lot of things we buy, but not specifically crypto, as it were.
Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that with us, Ryan. Now, which stocks, speaking of stocks, which seems to be a major portion of your interest and as well as focus, which stocks or sectors are you most excited about in this year, in 2021?
Yeah, we talked about this maybe actually in yesterday's podcast, Mo, and the podcast before. We talked about our top 5 stock picks for the month of April, but I'll give maybe 2 for you if that's okay. One of them is, well, in terms of sectors, the big one for me is the reopening trade. I think, we're going to come off the back of COVID, which means the likes of, the airlines, the cruise lines, the retailers, they will all come to maybe bigger numbers, bigger sales numbers as people, get out of the house. But there is one particular stock I like as a reopening trade, and it's a company called Academy Sports and Outdoors. Now, we recommended it actually back upon its IPO in October of last year when it's about $16. I think today it's about $32. So a lot of our members made some great gains on ASO, but they've got some price target upgrades to around $37. We think there's still value in Academy Sports and Outdoors, and maybe for some of your members there, the ticker is ASO. I think it's probably one of my my favorite stock picks. I think it's undervalued. The P ratio of 10, great growth potential. I really like it, Mo. And then the other 2 I will add is Boeing. I think Boeing will do quite well with some of the orders coming through. And Norwegian Cruise Lines, ticker NCLH. I think that's probably the best play in terms of cruise lines. But to change it up, I'll give one more. Another favorite of the SOYS Investment Group Discord channel is a company called Barrick Gold, ticker symbol GOLD. We've been talking about Barrick Gold for a very, very long time. And the reason I like gold is you look at where the market is, the major US indices, we're really hot at the minute in terms of we're overbought. We talked about it in the podcast this week around some of the key metrics in the market. We're very likely to see a pullback. I think maybe the S&P's got about 1% left in it, the Nasdaq potentially 5%, and then we could see a big sell-off. So I like to have a hedge against that, and my hedge is gold, not Bitcoin. It's gold. And then obviously with Barrick Gold, you get a dividend. I think it's 1.67%. And there's a lot of upside to it, Mo. So it's my hedge against a stock market bubble burst or a bear market. So I've got exposure to the reopening, but also a little hedge against it as well.
That's always wise. That's always wise to have that, hedge. As we know, the stock market can be volatile and unpredictable as well. Isn't it Barrick Gold also one of the stocks that Warren Buffett at least used to have huge investments in at one point?
It absolutely is, yeah. So I suppose we'll say that we beat Warren too. We were investors in gold before Buffett bought in, but we've held it since. So a lot of our members got in around sort of the $20 mark. We averaged down on the sell-off recently, but again, we've been sitting on the dividend. I think it has potential to get back up to that $27 mark, if not $30. That's what we're aiming for. So we see a lot of upside here. There's been some price target upgrades, and I suppose the other thing, Mo, is like the spot, as in spot gold is around 1750. I think gold will go higher, 1 because of inflation rates, and 2, I think the market, as I said, is getting a little bit too hot.
Thanks for sharing that, Ryan. Would you consider yourself more of an active investor? Is that a fair assessment?
It probably would. As of right now, we're quite active. On the Discord channel, we do have a sort of an exclusive channel which is dedicated to daily stock alerts, where I sort of share some of my stock trades or some of my thinking. So I am quite active on that with our members. But maybe over the long term, I might move from an active to a passive, investor. I might start to look at more long-term investments, which we're starting to do now. So we talked about, a couple of weeks ago to our members about buying the dips in the likes of Nvidia, Teladoc, a few others, which are already up maybe 10 to 15% in about a week or two. So there's some long-term trades as well that we're trying to, transition our way into.
more of a longer term hold. Are you at all invested in exchange traded funds or index funds, and what are your thoughts on those?
Not personally. The reason is in terms of my time horizon, I want to be a little bit riskier. I see the risk versus reward. There's probably stocks I could see higher yield in, so I'm not too keen on ETFs. But anything that mirrors an S&P 500 for any newbies, I would recommend putting maybe 10 to 15% of your portfolio into an ETF and leaving it there as almost, to be honest, Mo, a bit of a pension. So it's not that I don't like ETFs. It's just for my style of investing, I'd rather get into, the actual stocks.
Your earlier comment as well, it depends on your risk appetite, your time horizon, your goals and expectations from what you're expecting, how much risk also you're able to tolerate too. That really plays a part in terms of choosing
Absolutely.
your investment strategy and approach. What is, Ryan, your most favorite finance or investing book that you've read or listened to, if it's a podcast, and why?
Yeah, I might give maybe two books and one podcast for your members or your subscribers, Mo. So two of the most influential books for me when I started getting into the stock market was a book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think every investor might have read it at this stage. But I really liked the fundamentals and what the book stood for in terms of what different mechanisms are available for everybody to sort of make money. It's not just the stock market. You've also got sort of real estate and the different ways you can manage your money. So that was a big one for me in terms of open up my eyes to, you don't need a 9 to 5 job to make money. You can sort of make money while you're asleep. And the second book, which is probably my favorite, is One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch. And what that taught me was the importance of not looking or overlooking everyday goods. So, if there's something that you use every day, don't overlook it as a company to invest in. So, if you use, Microsoft PowerPoint, then it's going to be there for the future. Therefore, probably is a good long-term investment. Even down to an iPhone, how the brand loyalty behind that. So it opened my eyes up on that front. And I suppose a podcast, which I love, I listen to it religiously every day, is Squawk on the Street. Fantastic podcast. So I listen to that every day. And again, one of my probably the most influential investor I've listened to and I respect is a guy called Jim Cramer. So Jim speaks on Squawk on the Street and Mad Money. So I'm a big fan of Jim's and follow his work. So that's the podcast I listen to.
Thanks for sharing those. Yeah, no, I've listened definitely to the podcast Mad Money. I haven't listened as much to Squawk on the Street, but I think, I know in the Mad Money show, they refer to it quite often. Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing those. Are there certain key lessons that you've learned along the way investing in the stock market that you could share with our listeners and viewers?
Yeah, there's three that comes to mind. It's to be honest, Mo, it's probably from learning the hard way. The first thing I would say to it doesn't even have to be a newbie, to be honest, Mo. It could be anyone from an experienced investor. It still applies to me today. The first thing is never trade with emotion, because it'll result in one, over trading, or two, you'll make the wrong trades. You'll get sucked into market sentiment where you might buy a penny stock in the hope of maybe making 15 to 20% in a day. And 9 times out of 10, what happens is those trades don't come off. Stick to the fundamentals is what I say. Don't trade on your emotions. You need to sort of look at your portfolio as dead money. You can't be attached to that money. You need to treat it as dead money. So it's the first thing. The second thing for me, Mo, is the importance of risk management. I talk to this a lot, to our members, the Discord members, is you need to have a few things, to ensure you're properly, you're not exposed to risk. And that is conduct proper due diligence before you buy something. This is now talking about long-term investments, due diligence. Two, fundamental analysis. And we've got a few YouTube videos talking about it. But what I talked about earlier, Mo, the importance of understanding the PE ratio, the profit and operating margins of a company, basically understanding the balance sheet and is it fundamentally strong. And I suppose the other things are risk appetite. As you talked about, Mo, you put it perfectly. People have got different risk appetites. They might look for speculative stocks versus long-term. And the big one for me is you need to be a strict investor. You need to know what's your get out point, which ties me into the last bit of advice or lesson learned is there's nothing wrong in taking profits. I'm sure you might have heard it before. Jim Cramer on Mad Money talks about, bulls make money, bears make money, but pigs get slaughtered. And we certainly don't want to be a pig or a bag holder in this market. So we often take profits every now and then. We sort of, our strategy is take, short-term gain versus the, maybe 15-20% in a few weeks' time. So that's sort of our approach. So they're the top three things from my perspective.
Amazing three lessons that you shared with us, Ryan. It's funny, the second lesson that you shared around risk management was also brought up in our last week's episode. JR shared his lessons as he was reflecting on some of the lessons and pieces of advice that he has for new investors or investors as a whole. And one of his advices was on risk management that you also pointed out. Thanks for sharing that. Is there any final thoughts or other pieces that you would like to share with our viewers here on Moementum Mondays show with us, Ryan?
No, I suppose just a huge thanks again, Mo, for having us on your channel. As I say, we're big fans, and we're looking forward to this conversation and the connect, and obviously looking forward to future collaborations with yourself. I suppose one bit of advice we might share with your subscribers is just the way the markets are at the minute. I would sort of advise caution on any big trades at the minute, because just the way the markets are, they are, the key market indicators are pointing towards frothiness. So I would exercise caution and sort of give that as a bit of advice to your subscribers, I suppose.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us here on this show, on this episode, and sharing your advice with us. It was a pleasure having you on the show, and we look forward to connecting with you, whether on your YouTube channel, Discord, or even on your podcast that you mentioned is released every week. Thanks again, Ryan.
Absolutely. And thanks again, Mo. As I said, looking forward to having you on the podcast and maybe doing some collab videos in the future.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this episode of Moementum Mondays. I hope it was valuable to you and you learned something from it. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit from the video as well. We've added the contact link to our invited guests to the description of the video, so be sure to check them out. And lastly, if you haven't done that already, please subscribe to Moementum channel. Here on Moementum, we post weekly various videos about the stock market investing, stock analysis, financial planning, and finances. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.